Alright, this is test review 3, so over quadratic functions. Alright, so number 1 just says describe each transformation possible. So I'm going to go ahead and write all the different ones on here. Now again, you can use this on the test, so this will be a good reference for you when you need to use it. So I'm just going to go in the order that I think of them. So my first one that I would do is x plus h squared, and that gives me a shift to the left. So shift left. Then of course the opposite is x minus h squared is shift right. Okay, next one I would have is x squared plus k is shift up. And then x squared minus k is shift down. Okay, so those are the 4 translations, up, down, left, right. Okay, the next one that I would have that I'm thinking of is ax squared, where absolute value of a is greater than 1, or any number greater than 1, not counting the negative. That would be a vertical stretch. And then of course the opposite, if I have ax squared and my absolute value of a is less than 1, that'd be a vertical compress. So anything bigger than 1 is stretched, less than 1 is compressed, and remember on these you ignore the negative. So if it says negative 5, negative 5x squared, I just look at the 5. And that would be a stretch. I don't, ignore the negatives, because that's my next one that I have. If I have negative x squared, or, well, I'll rewrite that. Negative x squared, or negative parentheses x squared. Like my negative is in front of parentheses, or it's not inside with x. That would be a reflection over x. So reflect over x-axis. Which of course, if you want a picture, that would be going down, right? And then my last one for transformations is if I have parentheses x and then it's squared. So my negative is inside the parentheses. That would be a reflect over y. So over y-axis, which of course that just looks normal. That's still going up. So it looks like nothing happened on the graph, but it really did. It just flipped vertically. So those are my 8 transformations that are possible for a quadratic function. Alright, 2. Write the vertex form of a quadratic and how to find the vertex. So we're going to have the vertex form is y equals a and then x minus h squared plus k. And then how to find the vertex, I would just simply do h comma k, and I have to remember to change the sign of h. Okay? So that's a y equals quadratic. I mean, that's a function, right? But I'll go ahead and put the other one just because it is a parabola. It's not technically a quadratic, but we still need it, or it can still be helpful on the test. So I'll go ahead and give it to you here. So now we switch it. X equals a and then y minus k squared plus h. And if I had that parabola, my vertex would still be hk, except now I'm going to change the sign of k. That's my only difference. So if I flip x and y, I flip h and k. So change sign of k. So those are my 2 parabolas, whereas y equals is the quadratic function, the vertex form. Okay, so that's it for number 2. So number 3, find the x-intercepts for the function. Okay. Well, if we go and label these, which I love to label stuff because it makes it easy, I have a, x minus p, x minus q, right? And my x-intercepts, I guess we can write them over here maybe. So x-intercepts are going to be p0 and q0, right? And then of course you always, well, I'll write it right here. So you always change the signs of p and q. So whatever p and q are in the equation, I flip the signs for both, and that's my x-intercepts. And it's always p comma 0, q comma 0. That's it. So if I go over here, I have p and q. So if p is plus 14, it'll be negative 14 comma 0. And q is minus 26, so it's just 26 comma 0. And that's my answer. And that's it. Fairly simple. Okay, number 4, find the range for the function, and it gives me the function. First thing I want to do is label, so I have a, b, and c, right? ax squared plus bx plus c. And so for the range for these, the first thing I have to do is find h, or x, right? So I'm going to have h equals negative b over 2a. So I have b, and then a is right here. So, now again, this one's a lot more complicated than the test. I did that on purpose. But we'll go ahead and plug these in. And remember on these, when I do the negative b on the top, I just take whatever b is and flip the sign. So since b is plus 3, I'm going to put minus 3. And then the bottom is always 2 times a. In this case, a is negative 1/4. Okay, so I have negative 3 on top. 2 times 1/4. So these actually reduce to 1 and 2. And so I just have negative 1/2. So if I have a number divided by a fraction, I'm going to move the fraction up here, and it's going to be flipped. I know we haven't really done that yet, and don't worry, it's not on the test, but I'm just showing you that this is possible. This is how you would do it. But on the test is all whole numbers again, so don't worry about it. So here, so then I would flip the fraction to the top and multiply, so I have negative 3 times negative 2, which would give me positive 6. Okay, and that's my h, or my x value, right? So I take h, and what do? I plug it into my equation and solve for k, and that's how I get my range. So k is going to be negative 1/4 comma x squared, or h, right? So it's 6. So I have 6 squared plus 3 times 6 plus 8. Okay? And now I just solve this. So I'm just going to push it over here. So I have negative 1/4, and then 6 squared is 36. 3 times 6 is 18, and then plus 8. So if I keep going, 36 times 1/4, or negative 1/4, so 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I have negative 9 plus 18 plus 8. Of course, I have to go in order, right? So negative 9 plus 18 is 9. So I have 9 plus 8 equals 17. So for my answer, I have to be careful. I know it's a y because it's a range, right? Range is always y. And I know it's 17. I just have to know, am I going up or down? Is it greater than or is it less than? So the way I would find that out is I look at my a. Is my a positive or negative? Because a is negative, so if I have a negative a, I'm going to have y is less than. If I have a positive a, I'm going to have y is greater than. So that might be something you can write down, because depending on what question you get on the test, you'll have to do one or the other. There are both on there, so be careful. So in this one, because a is negative, I'm going to have y is less than or equal to 17, and that's my answer. And notice real quick on both of these, just so you know, always, always, always on range, you have to underline the inequality. Okay, it's always underlined, always for quadratics, every single time on this test, always underlined. You'll have an option where it's not. Please don't choose that. I'm letting you know now, it's always underlined. Okay, so that's it for the range. So I find h, plug it in, find k, and then just see if a is positive or negative for greater than or less than, and that's it. Alright, number 5, identify the focus of the quadratic. So notice I have an x and a y squared. On these, I'm not sure if you want to write this down, okay, you always solve for the letter, so always solve for x or y, not x squared or y squared, okay? So I'm solving for x, not y squared, so I want x by itself, alright? So always, always just solve for the letter, not the squared letter. Makes a huge difference. If you solve for the squared letter, you get a totally different function that we haven't done yet. So anyways, so on here, I want to solve for x, which means I need to make 3y squared go over here. And so plus 3y squared becomes, on the other side, minus 3y squared. So I have 72x equals negative 3y squared. And then since I'm trying to get x, I divide by 72 on both sides. Okay? Now I just got to reduce 3 and 72. So I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Of course, if you have a calculator, you can probably do it. So 3 goes into 7 2 times, it gives me 6. And then 4, and I know it's negative. So I go back right here. I'm going to have x equals negative 1 over 24 y squared. Alright, so I need to find the, let's say the focus, as soon as it shows back up. Alright, focus, yes. Alright, so over here I'm going to go ahead and write some notes again. So if I have an x equals parabola, my focus is going to be p comma 0. If I have a y equals parabola, my focus is going to be 0 comma p. Of course, it's only true for this question. That's not true for all quadratics, just for this one, because I know my vertex is at the origin, or not the origin. Yeah, vertex is at the origin. That's what I meant to say. So, only because my vertex is at the origin do I have, I can do this shortcut. Because if you look at my equation, I have no h and k, which is great. That makes it easy. So again, if I have x equals, I do p0. If I have y equals, I do 0p. Now, if you forgot where p was, again, you might want to write this down too. No matter which one of these I have, I'm going to have 1 over 4 times some p, right? So I have to convert that bottom number on the fraction to 4 times something. Okay? And if I have a negative, then p is also negative. Alright? So like on this one, I have this negative right here, so I know p is negative. It has to be. So when I convert this, I'm only going to focus on this fraction. I don't care about the rest of this at this point. All I needed was that fraction. Now I can find p. So I have 1 over 4 times, well, 4 times what is 24? 6. And because I have a negative, it's negative 6. So that means p is negative 6. I don't care about anything else now. That's all I needed. So because this is an x equals parabola, my focus is p comma 0. So my focus is p, which is negative 6 comma 0. That is my answer. And that's it. So you move everything over and isolate that fraction, and then convert the bottom to 4 times some number. That number is what you're looking for because that's p, and then that's your answer. Alright, let's go to the next one. Number 6. Identify the directrix of the quadratic. Okay, so notes. Write some notes for this one. Same thing as above. I only solve for the x or the y. So if you want to write that again, you can, just so you have it for this question. So solve for x or y, not x squared or y squared. Okay. So again, I'm solving for the same thing. And then for directrix, if I have an x equals equation at the end, my directrix, or if you just want to write d equals, so directrix is going to be x equals negative p, and then if I have y equals parabola, my directrix, again, or d equals, so my directrix is going to be y equals negative p. And the biggest thing on here, so I'm kind of going to do what I did just a minute ago on number 5, but the big difference is, and this is a big one, I have to change the sign of p. If I don't change the sign of p, I'm going to get a totally different p and it'll be wrong. So please remember, change the sign of p. Okay? So let's look at this one. Again, I want to solve for just x or y, not x squared or y squared. So I want to get this x by itself. So to do that, I'm going to move this over here. So plus 3y squared becomes minus 3y squared. So I have 72x equals negative 3y squared. Divide by 72. So exact same thing, right? And since I already know what this is, I know it's negative 1 over 24 y squared. And I'm going to go ahead and isolate or just focus on that fraction because that's all I need. Okay, so that is going to be, let me go over here, I have all this room. So I have negative 1 over 24 is 1 over 4 times, remember, it has to be 4 times a number. So 4 times 6, and because it's negative 6. So p is negative 6, but because I wrote this over here, my directrix is negative p, or in other words, I just changed the sign. And because I have an x equals, I'm going to use x equals. So my directrix, so d, is x equals, I take my sign, or my negative 6, and flip it to positive 6, and that's it. So, again, similar to number 5, except I take p and flip the sign, and that's my answer. Just make sure you get the right letter, x or y. Alright, number 7. Now I got to identify the focus of this quadratic, and notice I have a different formula. Okay? So, note time, right? Write some notes real quick. So, I could have, if I have y equals, it's going to be 1 over 4p x minus h squared plus k. Okay? And since I only want focus on this one, my focus for this equation, if I have this equation, is let's see, h, and then k plus p. Alright. Now, the other option that you could have, I didn't put it on here because I can't put everything on the test review, that would be forever long. If I have x equals 1 over 4p, and then it'd be y minus k squared plus h. If I had that, because remember, you can have one or the other on the test, my focus is going to be h plus p comma k. And remember, whatever is in parentheses, so if it's h or k, I flip the sign, right? So you always change the sign of whatever is in parentheses every single time. Alright, so if we look at this question, I have y equals, so I'm going to use this top one up here, that's y equals, and solve. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label everything. So I need to find, let's see, I have h is right here, k is right here, and 48 I got to change to 4 times some number, right, 4p. So if I do that, it's 4 times 12, right? So that means that P is 12. Great. Now I just go look at this. My focus is H, and then K plus P. So if I go over here, I have focus is H, and remember, I changed the sign, so negative 14, and then K is negative 35, plus P is plus 12. So the only thing I have to do on here now is just add or subtract whatever those two numbers, and I'm done. So I'm going to have negative 14, and negative 35 plus 12 is negative, see, 23. And you can always check that either with a calculator or, since these are different signs, notice I have a negative and a positive. The way I usually do those is I just subtract them. So that'd be 23. And whichever sign is bigger, or yeah, if the positive is bigger, it's positive. If the negative is bigger, it's negative. So in this case, 35 is bigger and it's negative, which would make this answer negative. So I was right. And that's my answer. That's it. So I find H and K, which are given. I make sure I get the correct P, and then you just do, depending on if it's X or Y, do the right equation or formula for focus, and that's it. Alright, let's look at number 8. Now I want directrix, okay? So I'm not going to write my equations again because they're the exact same as number 7, the y equals and the x equals. The only thing that I'm going to need here is my directrix. So I could have a directrix for y equals and x equals, right? So directrix y equals, if I have a y equals parabola, my directrix is just going to be y equals k minus p. And if I have x equals parabola, I'm going to have x equals h minus p. So notice they're just the opposite of the focus. So like on the y equals, my focus is k plus p, so my directrix is k minus p. And the other one is focus h plus p, directrix h minus p. And that's really it. So I do the same thing. And again, if you get the same equation, great, you've already done some of the work. If not, I'm just going to go through it again. So I have h, I have k, and then this is 4 times 12, which means p is 12. Now, I only need k on this one, so that's actually even easier. Whoa. So k minus p, so my directrix is y equals, because I have a y equals, k, which is negative 35, and then minus 12. Okay? So now, y equals, that would be negative 47. And that's it. And I'm done. So again, you may or may not get the same equation for both 7 and 8. There's always the chance you get different ones. That happens. You know, there's several equations in there, so it's just whatever you randomly get. Alright, let's go down to 9. So look at 9 and 10. 9 and 10 are very similar. One is increasing 10, the other one is decreasing. So let's write the notes first, just for this question. So remember, if you do remember, if not, great, it's okay. For increasing, decreasing interval, it all depends on a. So for the increasing interval, if I have a positive a, my increasing interval is going to be from h to infinity. If I have a negative a, my increasing interval is going to be from negative infinity to h. And one way that I kind of remember these is, if I have a negative a, I should have a negative infinity. If I have a positive a, I should have a positive infinity. Okay? That's how I remember these. I mean, again, whatever works for you, however you can remember, do that. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is label these, because all I need, actually I don't need to label a whole lot, I just need h. So if I go over here, because I have y equals, I have x minus h squared plus k. So notice my h is 16. And like every other question I've been saying, whatever is in parentheses, you have to change the sign. So I'm gonna be using negative 16 because you got to flip it. So my A, oh, almost forgot. My A, let's look at A. A is negative 12. So because I have negative 12A, I'm going to use this negative A as negative infinity to H. So all I do is negative infinity to negative 16. And that's my answer. Something else that you always have to remember, notice I use parentheses on both of these because you should never have a bracket. You should never have any of these on intervals, increasing or decreasing for these. They're always parentheses. So be sure to choose the right one. They're always parentheses. Always, always, always. Every time. Okay? And then, of course, decreasing is just the opposite. So if I have a positive A, my decreasing is going to be negative infinity to H. And if I have a negative A, my decreasing is going to be H to positive infinity. Now, I know my little thing that I said a minute ago doesn't match up, but it's not supposed to. As long as you remember the increasing, you just switch places on the decreasing, right? So they just flip places. That's all they do. So increasing is positive, positive, infinity, and then negative, negative, infinity. And then decreasing, you just change it, okay? They can't be the same. That's not possible. So you should never have both increasing, decreasing have the same answer. That just didn't happen. All right, so looking at this, again, I have the same thing. So again, you may or may not have the same thing. All I need is H. I need H, and I change the sign just like I did before. And because A is negative, I'm going to have my negative interval or decreasing interval, which is H, comma, infinity. So negative 16, infinity, and that's my answer. So those two are fairly simple, and they should not match. They should be just the opposite, right? Because you have to have a negative infinity, and you have to have a positive on one or the other. You can't have both negative or both positive. That just doesn't happen. All right, let's move on down here to 11. Now on the test, I don't know if you've noticed, but 1 through 10 are 5 points apiece. 11 through 15 are 10 points apiece, so these are definitely worth a lot more, so you got to be a little more careful on these. They do require a little more work, but that's why you get more points. So, on number 11, I want the vertex of the quadratic. So, in case you forgot, vertex is simply h, comma, k. So that's all I need to find. And I say, yeah, that's it, right? That's easy. Well, to find h and k, I got to find h first and plug h in to find k. So, let's do that. So let's start with h, right? So h equals p plus q over 2. Oh, we didn't label. All right, well, let's label. We have p, q, and remember you flip the signs when you take them out of the parentheses. So when I plug these in, I have p, so 14 would be negative 14, and q is minus 26, so plus 26 over 2. Okay, so 14, negative 14 plus 26, or if you want to think of it as 26 minus 14, you get 12 over 2, which is 6. All right, so 6 is h. So already on my answer, if you want, I can go ahead and put 6 comma, now I just have to find k. So how do you find k? You plug in your h in for x, right? Because x and h are kind of the same. Like h is the x value. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have negative 1/2, and then x is 6 plus 14, and 6 minus 26. Okay? Now I just solve from here, and I got k, and I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and add or subtract what's in the parentheses first. 6 plus 14 is 20. 6 minus 26 is negative 20. Let's go up here. So I still have negative 1/2 in the front. 20 times 20, or negative 20, is negative 400. Okay? Now, because I have two negatives, that makes it positive, and half of 400 is 200, and that's k, which is my answer. So 6 comma 200, and that's it. So I know that seems, that's 10 points, that's quite a bit, but as long as you follow the steps, go in order, find h, plug it in, find k, you should be okay. And that's number 11. Alright, so the next one, write an equation of the quadratic given the focus and the directrix. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and write some notes first, way over here, off to the side. So if I have a y equals, note it in my directrix, so this one is an x equals. So if I had a y equals, I would be given an h, a y, and d, and I would have to solve for p first, which would be negative d minus y over 2, and then I would have to find k, which would be d plus p. Okay, and after I find that, I would use my y equals the 1 over 4p x minus h squared plus k formula. So that's if I have y equals. If I have x equals, which I do here, it's going to be the opposite of y, right? So I have x equals, I would be given an x and a k, and then of course I always have my directrix, which is d. Then I would find, same order, I got to find p first. So p is negative d minus x over 2. Then I would find h. H is d plus p. And then I use my formula x equals 1 over 4p, and then y minus k squared plus h. So, depending on which one I have, x or y, I follow those steps, and then I have my answer. So notice on this one, I have an x equals. You can tell from the directrix. So if the directrix is x, then I follow the x equals. If it's y, I follow the y equals. Okay? So since I have an x equals, notice over here on my notes, I have x, k, and d. So I'm going to label x, k, and d. Okay? Now the first thing I want to solve for is p, because I have to. So that's negative d minus x divided by 2. Okay, so I'm going to have negative d is 12 minus x. So if x is negative 8, two negatives make a positive 8 over 2. So negative 12 plus 8 is 20 over 2, or negative 10. Okay, so there, I found p. Now I find h. Because I have k, I have p, the only thing I'm missing is h, and then I can do my answer. So h equals d plus p, which is 12 minus 10. Okay, because that's plus p, which is negative 10, so minus 10. And that gives me 2. So h is 2, p is negative 10, and k is 14. Now I can write my equation. So my equation for x equals is x equals 1 over 4p y minus k squared plus h. So I just have to replace p, k, and h. And if you remember correctly, or if you don't, that's fine. Always remember, write this down if you need to. Whatever's in the parentheses, you have to flip the sign. So in this case, k is going to change signs when I do my answer. So I have x equals 1 over 4 times p, which is right here, negative 10. Okay, then I have y. K is 14, so it's minus 14. And then plus h, which is 2. And last step is I just have to multiply these two right here. So x equals 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. And then everything else stays the same. And that's my answer. So again, it might seem like a lot when I write all those notes, but really it's 3 steps and you're done. So it's not too bad. Alright, moving on. Maximum or minimum? Alright, so max or min, first off for notes, I'm going to have a max if I have a negative a, and then the opposite, I'm going to have a min or minimum if I have a positive a. So again, the a determines everything on this question. So if I label these, I'm going to have A, B, C. So right away, I can tell since A is negative, I'm going to have a maximum. So I'm going to go ahead right here and just write max equals, and I don't know yet, but I'll find out in a minute. Okay? So here's what I have to do though. To find my max or min, no matter what it is, I'm going to do the same thing. I have to use x equals negative b over 2a. I find x, and then I plug it in to find my max or min. That's the y. That's all I do. So find x, plug it in, find y, and I'm done. Alright, so on here I have negative b. Well, b is 3. It'd be negative 3 over 2 times a, which is negative 1/4. Okay? And again, on the test, they're all whole numbers, there's no fractions, but if you can do this, you can do the test just fine. So 2 and 4 reduce to 1 and 2. So I'll rewrite that. I have negative 3 over negative 1/2. And if I divide by a fraction, the fraction comes up, and I flip it. Okay, so I have negative 3 times negative 2 is negative, or positive, sorry. 2 negatives make a positive 6. That's my x. Now I plug this number in for my x values, and then I can find my y, which is max or min. Okay, so I have negative 1/4 times 6 squared plus 3 times 6, and then plus 8. Okay, now all I have to do is solve this, and I'm done. So I have 6 squared. I'll move it over here. Negative 1/4. 6 squared is 36. 3 times 6 is 18, and plus 8. So I scoot over some more. 36 divided by 4 is 9, plus 18, plus 8. Negative 9 plus 8 is 9, plus 8 is 17. Okay, that's my number that I'm looking for. So that number goes right here under max, and then I'm done. So again, solve for x, plug it in, solve for y, and then that's it. Alright, moving along to number 14. So 14, notice I have 2 graphs because on the test you will get one or the other. You won't see both. So you have to know how to do both. And they're a little different. So A, notice on A, I can see my intercepts right here, but I can't see my vertex, right? My vertex is nowhere to be seen, or even if it was there, I couldn't really tell what it was. So you're either going to find your vertex, so your intercepts like A, or just real quick on B, notice I have my vertex right here. So you're going to be able to find one or the other, not both. Because notice on B, I can't tell what my intercepts are. And then A, I can't tell what my vertex is. So it depends on what you have. So let's do A. So on A, if I can see my x-intercepts, I'm going to use y equals A x minus p, and then x minus q. Okay? So that's my p and q are my 2 intercepts. And then, again, I need x and y, so I just need to pick any point that I want to. Alright? So my p is, p equals negative 1, q equals 4, and then any point, x, y, doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this one right here, that's the easiest. That point is 0, negative 4. So that's x, that's y. And now I have my 4 numbers that I need. So I'm going to plug those in. So y is negative 4. Remember, I don't have a. X is 0. And then for P and Q, you flip the signs, right? So P I flip to +1. X I flip to, X is 0. Q I flip to -4. And then I solve. So I have -4 equals A 1, and then -4. I multiply those, so -4 equals -4A. And when I divide, I get A, so that is 1. So that's not bad. So once I get that, I just remember all I need on these is A, P, and Q. That's it. So my answer, I'm going to replace A, P, and Q. So I have Y equals A is 1, X plus 1, X minus 4. And that's my answer. Okay, so let's go over to B. And on this one, notice I have the vertex. So my vertex is -2, 4. Okay. And that's going to be H and K. And then, just like the other one, I got to find any other point. So I'm going to use this point right here because that's the easiest one. You can use the other, a different one, but that one is -1, 1. And of course, that's X and Y. And I almost forgot, let's write down the equation. So this one I'm going to use Y equals A X minus H squared plus K. So again, just like the last one, I don't know A, that's all I have to solve for. So my Y is 1 equals A I don't know, X is -1, H I got to flip, so +2 squared, and then K is 4. Okay, now I just solve. -1 plus 2 is 1. So I guess I'll write it down just so y'all can see every step. 1 squared is 1, so I have 1 equals 1A plus 4. Subtract 4 from both sides. 1 minus 4 is -3 equals A, and that's all I needed, right? So same thing, all I need on this is A and then HK. And now I can plug in my answer. So from here, I'm going to do it right here. So I have Y equals A is -3, X plus 2 squared plus 4. And that's my answer. So you do have to know both ways because on the test you'll get one or the other. You won't have to do both, so only one of these, but that's how you do both of those. And finally, the last question. Alright, so on this one, I have my focus and my directrix. So first thing you want to do on these is plot the point and the line. So the point is 7, 5. So I go right 7, up 5. There is my focus. Okay, so there's my focus. And my directrix is Y equals, so I stay on the Y axis and go down to -9. Do a horizontal line. So there's my directrix. Now, the only thing I really need to do from here, once I have focus and directrix, is I have to find my vertex. Okay? So my vertex is directly between my focus and directrix, so from my focus, I'm going to count down to my directrix line. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I just divide that by 2, 7. So again, I'm going to count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here is my vertex. Okay? And remember, my parabola can only open away from my directrix. It cannot go across the line. It's like a wall, right? And on the test, this is multiple choice. So I'm not really too concerned about doing the A part. So I'm not going to worry about it. As long as you can find the focus, you can find the directrix, you can find the right vertex and know which direction it opens, you should be okay. So from here, I has to open up because my directrix is down. So I'm just going to draw a line like a U, kind of like that. And so multiple choice wise, I should be looking for that. So as long as you can get the focus, directrix, and vertex correct and know that it opens away from the directrix, that's all you got to know on this question for the test. And once you do that, you're done with the test. So be sure to study this, practice. If you have questions, let me know, and good luck on the test.